Let's stop pretending like just be yourself has ever worked. If it did, you wouldn't be here. This video is all about one thing: how to talk to women in a way that actually attracts them, even if they're not into you at first. We're not going to dance around the truth. We're going to tell you exactly how to shift the dynamic in your favor. Because yes, even if she seems cold, distant, or completely uninterested, there's still a way in. And no, it doesn't involve money, looks, or faking confidence. Let's be real. Most men have been set up to fail from the start. Society handed us a script that was never meant to work. We were taught to play it safe, to always be polite, to never rock the boat. We were told that being nice would win her over, that patience and passivity were attractive, and that the best way to her heart was through silence, caution, and hope. And what happened? You played by the rules and got left on red. You waited for the right moment, and she chose someone else. You showed her how respectful and harmless you were, and she labeled you as just a friend. Meanwhile, the guy who showed zero hesitation, who wasn't afraid to take up space, who didn't overthink every word, he got her full attention. It's not because women like jerks, it's because they respond to certainty. They feel pulled toward men who own their presence and express interest without apology. If you've been taught to hide your intentions, wait for signals, and play the long game hoping she comes around, you've been playing a losing game. We're going to break this all down. I'm going to show you how to shift her emotional state through your words, how to command respect without begging for attention, and how to talk in a way that grabs her interest, even if she wasn't planning to like you. So if you're tired of overthinking every text, getting stuck in the nice guy zone, or watching women light up for other men but act cold with you, pay attention. This isn't about manipulation. It's about reclaiming your natural edge as a man. Let's get into it. 1. Stop talking like you need her. The fastest way to lose a woman's interest is to talk like she's doing you a favor by being there. Most guys don't realize this, but the way you speak, your tone, your words, your body language, often screams one thing: please like me. And that kills attraction. Neediness shows up when you're constantly trying to prove you're good enough. You over-explain. You agree with everything she says. You ask too many questions, hoping to keep her attention. You're afraid to disagree. You laugh at jokes that aren't funny. And deep down, you're doing it because you think, if I'm nice enough, she'll choose me. But here's the truth. Women aren't drawn to approval-seeking behavior. They're drawn to men who carry themselves like they have options. A man who doesn't need her validation is a man she wants validation from. You don't win her over by trying to impress her. You do it by speaking like you respect yourself more than her opinion. That doesn't mean being rude or arrogant. It means you're rooted, grounded. You talk to her like she's just another human being, not a goddess who holds the key to your self-worth. A guy walks up to a woman and says, "Hey, I saw you from across the room and thought you looked interesting, so I figured I'd come over and say hi. I'm James." He's calm. He's not trying to be funny, charming, or overly smooth. He's not fishing for her reaction. He knows who he is, and he's not hoping for her approval. That's attractive. Now compare that to, "Hi, sorry to bother you. I just thought you were really pretty and I don't usually do this, but I wanted to say hi. I'm James. What's your name?" He's already losing. Why? Because he's shrinking. He's putting her on a pedestal. He's showing that he needs something from her. The shift is simple. Talk to her like you talk to someone you enjoy, not someone you're afraid to lose. When you remove the pressure to impress, you instantly stand out. Because most men are still begging to be chosen. Want to attract her? Stop sounding like you need her. 2. Confidence isn't loud, it's certain. Most guys confuse confidence with performance. They think being confident means being bold, loud, funny, or over the top. So they try to be the entertainer, the alpha, the showman. But here's the truth. Real confidence isn't about volume, it's about certainty. Women don't need you to be loud. They don't need you to be the life of the party. What they notice, almost instantly, is whether you're sure of yourself. Whether you walk into a room like you belong there. Whether you say things like you mean them, That's confidence, and it doesn't need to shout. The guy who's constantly trying to prove he's confident is the one who isn't. He brags. He tries to dominate conversations. He interrupts. He needs to be seen. But underneath all that energy is insecurity. He needs attention to feel valuable. That's not attractive. It's exhausting. Certainty, on the other hand, is quiet power. It's the way you make eye contact without flinching. It's the way you speak slowly without rushing your words. It's how you stay calm when there's silence instead of panicking and filling the gap. And most importantly, it's the way you trust your own presence, with or without her approval. Picture this. Two guys are talking to the same woman at a party. One is cracking jokes, trying hard to impress, laughing at everything she says, trying to keep her entertained. The other is relaxed. He asks her a question, listens closely, pauses before speaking, and doesn't try to sell himself. Guess who she remembers? The second guy. Why? Because his presence is grounded. He's not chasing her attention. He's simply there, enjoying the moment. That subtle calmness, that unshakable energy, is what women pick up on. It tells her, I'm good with or without you. That's what confidence sounds like. You don't need to be the funniest guy in the room. You don't need to dominate the conversation. You don't need to prove anything. You just need to be certain of who you are. And let that speak louder than words. The men who attract women effortlessly aren't always loud, but they are always sure. And that certainty, that's what sticks. 3. Don't chase, challenge her. Let's face it, chasing never feels good, but most of us have done it. You meet a woman who catches your interest, and before you know it, you're over-investing. You text back instantly, respond to her social media posts within seconds, and keep trying to prove you're worth her time. The entire dynamic shifts. You start chasing, and she starts pulling away. Here's why that doesn't work. Women can sense desperation. They know when a guy is chasing them like they're the prize. And even though women might appreciate the attention at first, it eventually feels suffocating. It becomes a game of power. And once you've established yourself as the one who's always chasing, you've lost the upper hand. When you chase, you're not giving her room to miss you, to think about you, or to actually wonder about your value. Instead, you're constantly in her face. And that makes you seem like you need her to validate your worth. It's a subtle thing, but that neediness is the biggest turnoff. So what's the alternative? Stop chasing and start challenging. Now that doesn't mean playing games or pretending to be uninterested when you're clearly interested. What it means is this. Approach the interaction like you have options. Approach it like you're not desperate for her approval. When you challenge her, you put the ball back in her court without appearing disinterested. You don't just hand over the power to her and hope she'll choose you. You let her earn your attention. Think about it. Women are approached all the time, and they're usually given the same routine. The nice guy who bends over backwards to be accepted. But what if instead of chasing her, you treated her like someone who needs to prove herself to you? You don't have to be rude or dismissive, but you do have to hold your ground and show that you won't chase anyone. That's where the respect comes in. Challenging her means you're not willing to waste your time on someone who isn't adding value to your life. It means you're not afraid to set boundaries and make sure she knows you won't settle for less than what you deserve. It's a mindset shift. You're no longer hoping she'll choose you. You're deciding if she's worth your attention. When you make that mental switch, everything changes. You stop thinking of her as the prize and start seeing her as a potential partner who needs to meet your standards. Women are attracted to men who value themselves enough not to chase. When you give off the energy that you're already good with, or without her, she'll start to see you in a completely different light. Chasing makes you look weak. Challenging her makes you look strong and confident in your own value. And that's what will really grab her attention. 4. Flirt first, connect later. If you're like most guys, you've probably fallen into the trap of trying to connect with a woman before you flirt with her. You want to impress her by showing you're deep, thoughtful, and emotionally available right away. You ask meaningful questions, share personal details about your life, and maybe even open up about your past. You're doing everything you think will make her see you as the one. But here's the truth. Connection follows attraction, not the other way around. If you try to connect with her first, you'll probably end up in the friend zone. Why? Because when you put all your energy into making her see you as this thoughtful, sensitive guy before any flirting happens, you're skipping the most important part. Building attraction. Attraction isn't about impressing her with how well you can share your emotions or the depth of your character. Attraction is sparked by flirting. It's playful, teasing, and fun. Flirting isn't about being overly serious. It's about showing interest in a way that makes her feel excited and curious about you. When you start with flirting, you create an energy between the two of you that makes her want to connect more deeply later on. The problem is, a lot of guys get stuck in their heads. They think, I need to show her my real self. But what they don't realize is that no one is attracted to someone who is too serious too soon. It comes off as needy, and it puts way too much pressure on the interaction. Women don't want to feel like they're being asked to evaluate you for a relationship right off the bat. They want to feel fun and chemistry first. By starting with flirting, you create a dynamic where you both feel a sense of excitement and playfulness. You're not coming at her like you have an agenda or a need to prove yourself. You're showing that you can have fun with her and make her feel special without putting all your cards on the table immediately. Flirting doesn't have to be complicated or forced. It's the small things. The way you look at her, the way you speak, the subtle compliments that make her feel noticed without overwhelming her. It's showing her that you can create a spark without immediately diving into serious territory. Once you've established that attraction through playful flirting, then you can move into a deeper connection. That's when you share your values, your goals, your interests. But the key is to make sure you've built enough intrigue and attraction first, because that's what makes her want to connect with you in the first place. So, don't rush to connect. Flirt first, and let everything else follow naturally. 5. Ignore her beauty. Seriously. It sounds counterintuitive, right? The first thing most guys notice about a woman is how attractive she is. And hey, there's nothing wrong with appreciating a woman's beauty. But if you focus on it too much, you're missing the point. The truth is, her beauty isn't what's going to make her interested in you. It's how you make her feel, how you communicate, and how you engage with her beyond just physical attraction. When you lead with her appearance, you reduce her to something superficial. And let's be honest, women get enough of that already. Everywhere they go, people are commenting on their looks. They get attention from guys just because they're attractive. But that attention is usually shallow and temporary. To make her feel something real, you need to connect with her on a deeper level. Instead of complimenting her appearance right away, focus on what makes her unique. Her personality, her interests, her opinions. When you see her as more than just a pretty face, you give her the opportunity to be seen for who she truly is. This is what makes the difference between a guy who's just another admirer and a guy who stands out. It's not about pretending you don't notice she's beautiful. Of course you do. But it's about showing her you're interested in what's inside, not just what's on the outside. When you compliment her on something more meaningful, it signals that you're not just here for a one-dimensional connection. You're here to understand her as a whole person. Take this into a real-life situation. Imagine you're talking to a woman at a social event. Most guys might tell her she's gorgeous, or they might start a conversation about how great she looks. Instead, you could say something like, I really admire how confident you are. It's rare to see someone so comfortable in their own skin. Now, you're complimenting something deeper, her presence, her energy, the way she carries herself. That's a compliment that resonates. Here's why this works. When you focus on her appearance too early, you set yourself up to be just another guy who's interested in her because of her looks. But when you highlight something more substantial, whether it's her confidence, her sense of humor, or her intelligence, you stand out. You become someone who values her for more than just what meets the eye, and that's what makes her curious about you. Women want to be appreciated for their minds, their character, and their personality, not just their looks. When you stop obsessing over her beauty and start appreciating the real woman in front of you, you open the door to a deeper connection. 6. Lead the conversation, don't follow. It's time for some real talk, guys. Most of you have been doing this all wrong. Too many men are waiting for her to lead the conversation. You're hanging on her every word, trying to keep her interested, and hoping that somehow she'll carry the load and make things work. But that's not how this works. If you're always following her lead, you're putting her in the position of power, and that's not what's going to make her attracted to you. Women are drawn to men who take charge of the situation, who confidently steer the conversation, and who aren't afraid to guide things forward. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, but isn't that a bit too forward? No, it's not. You've been conditioned to believe that being passive or waiting for her to take the reins is the right approach. You've bought into the idea that playing it cool means sitting back and letting her decide where the conversation goes. But here's the cold truth. That's why you're stuck in the friend zone. When you lead the conversation, you show confidence. You don't have to control every word she says, but you need to be the one guiding the flow. That means asking questions with purpose, not just, "How's your day?" or "What do you do for work?" because everyone asks those boring questions. Instead, make it engaging. Ask her about her passions, what gets her excited, or even challenge her in a light, playful way. When you lead with confidence, you also get to decide the direction of the interaction. And yes, this is what attracts women. A man who isn't afraid to show his interest, his opinions, and his desire to take the conversation further. But here's where a lot of you are missing the point. You're not taking charge because you're afraid of rejection. You're so worried about saying the wrong thing or coming off as too eager that you end up doing nothing at all. You wait for her to show signs, to give you permission, and in the meantime, you lose the chance to connect. Women like a man who is willing to take the lead. It doesn't mean you dominate every conversation or ignore what she says. It just means you confidently express yourself and keep things moving forward. You can't be passive and expect to get anywhere. You've got to step up. It's time to take control of your interactions. Stop waiting for her to make the first move. Stop being afraid of saying the wrong thing. Lead the conversation like you would lead anything else in your life, with confidence and purpose. If you don't step up now, don't be surprised when another guy who's willing to take charge comes in and catches her attention. Leading the conversation isn't just about being dominant, it's about showing you can lead in life, and that's what makes you truly attractive. 7. Make her feel, not just think. It's time to address something most guys overlook. Feelings matter more than logic when it comes to attraction. You might be one of those guys who thinks that impressing her with your knowledge, logic, or how well you can explain things will win her over. But here's the hard truth. It's not what you say, it's how you make her feel. Men often fall into the trap of overthinking the conversation, focusing on all the right things to say, the right words to use, and how to sound smart. But when you rely too much on logic, you're missing out on what really matters in building a connection with her. She doesn't want to sit there analyzing what you just said. She wants to feel something. And if you don't tap into her emotions, you're not going to stand out from the crowd. When a woman connects with a man, it's because of how he makes her feel in that moment. Think about it. Have you ever talked to someone who made you feel energized, excited, and drawn to them without even having to try? That's the kind of energy women are looking for in a man. So, how do you make her feel? It starts with your energy, your tone, and your presence. It's the way you speak to her, the way you look at her, and how you carry yourself. Confidence isn't about talking loud or trying to impress her with fancy words. Confidence is about being certain in who you are and letting that certainty show. When you're certain about yourself, you can let go of the pressure to be perfect or say the right thing every time. You don't need to be the smartest guy in the room. What you need is to be someone who creates an emotional experience, someone who can make her feel something positive, whether it's laughter, excitement, intrigue, or attraction. That's what makes you unforgettable. It's not about selling yourself through logical facts, it's about connecting through emotions. If all you're doing is talking about things that make her think, you're missing the bigger picture. You have to engage her emotions. It's the laughter, the playful teasing, the moments where she feels alive when she's with you. Women want to feel excited by your presence, They want to feel alive when talking to you, not like they're in a boring conversation about the weather or some deep philosophical debate. In the end, making her feel something positive is what builds attraction, not just what you say. So next time you're interacting with a woman, focus on making her feel something and let the rest follow. 8. Walk away like you mean it. Here's the final but most important point. You need to walk away like you mean it. That doesn't just mean physically walking away from a conversation or situation. It means having the courage to detach yourself emotionally when something isn't working. If you're sticking around for attention, validation, or out of fear of being alone, you're setting yourself up for failure. You've probably been there, chasing after a woman who doesn't seem as invested as you are, trying to hold on to something that's clearly not going to work out. The problem is that when you cling to something that's not healthy or not mutual, you undermine your own value. It's a hard pill to swallow, but you're telling yourself that you're not worth walking away from situations that don't serve you. And that's where you lose your power. Women can sense when you're afraid to walk away, and that's a massive red flag. If you're not willing to let go of something that isn't benefiting you, you're essentially showing her that you don't have enough self-respect to move on when things aren't right. And that's not attractive. Women want to see a man who's confident enough to walk away from anything that doesn't add value to his life. But walking away isn't about being a jerk or giving up too easily. It's about knowing your worth and having the self-respect to not settle. When you walk away, you're not just rejecting her, you're rejecting the situation. You're telling her, and more importantly, telling yourself, that you won't tolerate anything that doesn't align with your standards. Here's the thing. Walking away doesn't mean you're weak. It's actually a sign of strength. It's about recognizing when something's just not working and having the maturity to detach emotionally without needing closure or validation. You've got to be willing to move on. This applies to women, friendships, even work situations. If it's not serving you, let it go. When you do that, you automatically put yourself in a position of strength. Now, I know that walking away can be tough. You've probably been in situations where you felt like you were about to lose something good and you didn't want to give it up. But you have to ask yourself, is this really good for you? If the answer is no, then walking away isn't just the right choice, it's the only choice. You're never going to get anywhere if you're afraid to let go of things that don't work. By walking away, you create space for something better to come into your life. Something that respects you, values you, and treats you the way you deserve. So, start walking away like you mean it, and watch how quickly things begin to change for the better. Here's the truth that might sting. If you're struggling with attraction, it's because you've been playing by all the wrong rules. You've been told to wait patiently, act nice, and hope she'll notice you. But here's the reality. Women aren't attracted to the guy who's afraid to show intent, who doesn't know his own worth, or who's stuck chasing approval. You need to stop seeking validation and start demanding respect. Women are drawn to men who are confident, who lead, and who aren't afraid to walk away when something doesn't serve them. The moment you realize that your value isn't dependent on her attention is the moment everything changes. So stop being passive. Stop waiting for the right time. Take control, lead the conversation, and stop being afraid to walk away when it's not right. That's what gets the woman and the life you want. Now I want to hear from you. Have you been stuck in the friend zone or waiting for the perfect moment? Drop your experiences in the comments, and I'll personally reach out. Let's build a community where men support each other in taking action, building confidence, and getting the results they deserve.